Is peanut butter bad for you? Let's find out. What's up, MMC? It's Bella here, your lead nutritionist and recipe developer. So this is actually a really common question that I get from a ton of people, both here in MMC and on social media. There really are some misconceptions, I would say, when it comes to peanuts and peanut butter nutrition. So the big question is peanut butter, is it bad for you? Well, I would say yes and no. You know my answers on these kind of things. Yes and no. Really, it just depends how much you're consuming and also the quality of the peanuts and the variety of peanuts that you are buying. So let's start by running through some of the perhaps not so great things about peanuts, peanut butter, anything peanutty. So one of the main things is that they're very high peanuts in omega-6s. Now, most people, and you may have heard me say this before, just get way too many omega fats in our diets and not enough omega-3 fatty acids. And it's all about finding that balance, really, really important. So omega-3 fats are going to be the ones that help reduce inflammation overall. Whereas if you overconsume, and big stress on the overconsume, they're not inherently bad, but if you overconsume omega-6 fats, it can cause inflammation in the body. So peanuts, as I mentioned, are very high in those omega-6s and low on those omega-3s. So that balance is off and they can therefore cause this imbalance ratio, especially when consumed often or with a really omega-6 high diet in general. So another major issue with peanuts is that they often contain mold. I know it's a little scary. So peanuts often contain what are called mycotoxins. Really the most well-known one for peanuts is aflatoxins, also just mold. And this can lead to things like allergies and health issues, and can cause that inflammatory response in some people as well. And then the third little thing I will say, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but just something that you should know, is that peanuts aren't actually nuts, they're legumes, just a little FYI. So if you're someone who's following, say, a paleo diet or not doing legumes, then peanuts do actually fall into that category. I will say, however, despite these kind of eeks that come along with peanut butter, I do know that it can be like a really affordable source of fats and proteins for some people, and honestly it's loved by so many. A lot of you grew up with peanut butter and just don't want to give it up, and that's okay. It's all about balance. So if you are going to consume PB, here are just some tips I think to keep in mind. First of all, always buy organic. This is going to reduce chances of pesticides and contamination. Another thing, this is a really big one for me, if I'm ever going to buy peanut butter, I always look at what type of peanuts, specifically looking there for Valencia peanuts. It's probably going to say it on the back of the label. I know the Trader Joe's organic one has Valencia peanuts. Now these peanuts are going to be grown in bushes rather than the ground, which is where they get moist and where it results primarily in those aflatoxins and the mold. Also, just in general, with anything, just consume it sparingly, I would say. And if you are going to eat it more regularly, just really focus on incorporating those foods that are higher in omega-3s. Remember, it's all about the balance. So the bottom line is that I think it totally depends. I think it's definitely a food that I would consume sparingly. I personally actually love peanut butter. I think it tastes delicious. But sometimes if I'm, having it more often, I will swap it out for something like almond butter or cashew butter, just to kind of rotate that in general. So I think just, as always, look at that quality. It really, really does make a difference. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any further questions, you can just reach out to myself or Laura or anyone here in MMC. We're happy to answer your questions. So I will see you all next week for another video. Thanks so much for hanging out.